Welcome. Check this out. In today's video, we're going to go through the December 2023 update pertaining to formatting for column and bar charts and the data labels. A lot of updates came. So what we're going to do today is we're going to build this step by step, going through all of the new features and functionality. So let's dive right into Power BI. And please take a minute to hit subscribe. Let's go. All right, here we are. Let's dive in. So what you're going to see at the top is what we're going to build today. And these were built with the intentionality to showcase the new features that are released. So we have a ribbon chart on the left, a bar chart on the right. Check it out. The series are exploding. You can get close into here. You can see how the legends embedded in the value itself, which is very cool. The ribbons, now they actually have the series moving as well. So you can set that up and you can tell how segments rank by sorting order and exploding the series. So let's build this. It's going to be a detailed video also showing just the functionality for how to do the small tweaks of the borders, how to coordinate the labels and coordinate everything. So let's dive in. We're going to start with the foundations of this thing. We're going to add a chart, the ribbon chart. So we're going to go to download this file. It's in the GitHub, linked on this video. Get it, follow along. It's going to help you understand these features even more. So calculations, units sold. We're going to do units sold. We're just going to start getting some values on the page first. What I'm going to want to do is create a visual for date, the date hierarchy. And we're going to flip this sucker into the ribbon visual. Let's drill down. So you can see close to what we have up top. My first main goal is I'm just going to get the layout of these things going, then we're going to dive in. Next thing, let's create the foundations of the bar chart. I guess we can add this as well. So it's showing the units sold, but it's breaking them out by returned and sold. So go under the sales section and add the status to the legend. Again, it's not going to show up quite right yet, but we will get to that point. Now for the bar chart, let's do the same thing. We're going to go to units sold, and we're going to sort this one by product. So the whole story here is a month, and then you can click a month, interact with that, and see the dates or see the product summarized information behind that. So let's go to our dimension for product and add product. Now we also want to have the same segmentation of the sales status, but we want to have this be a stacked bar chart. Okay, so there we go. Now let's make some updates to both of these. So we have our foundations. We want the color. We're going to dive first into we'll set up the foundation of the bar chart first. It'll be the simplest. So what I'm going to do for right now is we're going to open up the formatting, and you can see here that the values are showing on the right-hand side, and we're going to dive into each of these categories. So firstly, let's just start cleaning it up. We're going to turn off the title. Let's set the bar color. So a lot of the new features are in the bars section and in the data labels section of any report. Of this visual. So let's go ahead and add, just add labels, add the data labels, add the total labels. Let me make sure this is doing units. This is not, this is just units. So I knew it looked a little weird. So I'm going back and I picked units sold. I need to pick units. Under units total, pick the calculation for units. That's going to add up the total units. Okay, so first let's look at the bars. The bars themselves have a new functionality. Step one here, it's the apply settings to. So similar to the filtering videos I recently created, they released the same functionality where instead of previously having to set formatting for the whole entire thing, you can actually drill into each series. And a series is essentially the legend or the status. So if I click series, you'll see now I can control how the returned look and how the sold look, or how the whole thing looks, which is very cool. So let's start by setting some of the basic colors. We're gonna say returned. Well, I want returned to be bad, so I'm gonna make that light red. And I want sold to be good, so I'm gonna make that dark green. Starting to get close. Let's go over, we'll keep sticking with this one because I want to go through the functionality of this thing. So now what's very neat is you can also control border to help highlight and accent certain sections of any bar. So for example, if I go back to returned, well, I intentionally made that a lighter red because if I go to border, now I can turn this on and you're gonna have two options. The first is, do I want it to match the bar color? If you do that, it's just gonna blend right on in, and you can kind of go lighter if you set the transparency down. So I typically like more control where I don't match it, but I'm gonna go pick it. So I want red. I want it to be like an outline. And for the width of this, you can set it thick. You know, how thick do you want this? 8.76, it starts to look a little weird. But if we just do a light 2-point, it kind of helps call out and highlight, hey, this section's bad, this is important. And for the sold, let's do the same thing. We're gonna turn on the border, and you know I went to series and picked sold. Now I'm going to go to the border, I'm gonna pick the color of that border. I want it to be light green, just the inverse. So you can see the inverse relationship between color. That helps kind of segment things. Dark fill, light border, dark border, light fill. We'll also get to the labels here in a second. What we'll do is we'll format the colors of each one, go back and forth. We'll kind of do each section by section. So let's keep on going. And let's do the same coloring, just the general coloring. Then we'll start breaking out the series and look at that functionality as well. Again, something I always talk about is repetitiveness. Doing something multiple times is gonna build in that ability into your brain, and it'll be much easier in the future. So do this repetitive exercise, follow along, it's gonna lock it in for you. So now let's modify this. You can see firstly, the ribbons are different widths, lots of different values. It includes an up or down arrow, the labels. So we're gonna show all this feature functionality in the label, but let's get the colors set up as well. And you can see there's a cool inverse thing happening here too. Again, it's intentional just to show you all of the conditional formatting abilities or dynamic formatting abilities. So within this, a ribbon chart, it's not gonna have bars, but it's gonna have columns and ribbons. So if we go to the column and you scroll down, you'll see the same thing, the series, all, returned, sold, which is just great. So we're going to set this up where returned is bad, and I want to follow the same kind of gist of this previous one where light red for the fill, and we're gonna do for the border, we're gonna turn this on, and we're gonna have a darker red border, and we'll get into that more. Actually, I remember this one, I wanted the border off as an example, because this has a ribbon. So let's set the color for sold, click sold, go to color, pick the dark green fill. We're starting to see this come alive a little bit. Now let's look at the ribbon, which is gonna be over here on the left, the space between the columns. Well, this is really light and outlined. This is a new thing, a new functionality as well. Also, you can see there's very light but subtle borders around this one. So I'm gonna turn on the border. And you can do as an experiment, you can match the column color and then turn the transparency down or up. But you see, I don't like it as much. So I like to pick my color. We're gonna pick this light gray and transparency 0. So you'll be able to see that in a little bit more as we progress through this thing. Width 2, let's go back to return to make sure that width, oh, we don't have a border on the return. So we're getting closer. But now let's look at the ribbon color. So I'm gonna collapse this stuff, reset, go to ribbons. And for the ribbons, I'm gonna pick the sold series. And I think I just set this on a greater transparency. I think like 50%. Yeah, 50%. So Let's put the transparency to 50. And again, this takes that same green, but it now, chills it out. And let's see here. We're going to do the same thing. Right here. And we're going to go to the fill for the returned, and we want that to be dark. So the color for the returned, I don't want to match it, but I want to pick that color to be the dark red, and I want it to be the same red as over here. Transparency, not transparent at all. And you can see it's going to start to fill in these gaps now. So the border, I want the border to be on. And the reason why is because now I'm going to pick the light border around the dark color to match that, that transparency feeling, or the inverse feeling for how these colors look. And again, everything's close. We're going to explode it here in a second, which helps put more data on there for sure. But right now we have our basic colors. And what you just learned how to do is how to change the conditional, or not the conditional, but change the specific formatting for any series of any bar chart or any column chart. These can be clustered or anything you want, but now you have the functionality via this apply settings to feature to update how that looks for you. But let's go into the final, or not the final, but the next big step. So the series, when you have all selected, there's now a new category called layout. And this category, as well as columns, so if we go to columns, and then we're going to go to layout. All right, well, here's some new stuff. So this is where we can explode the series, and then show the percentage of explosion, which is essentially, it removes, if you notice I turned this back off, so there's an axis here, 0, 5, 10. When you have a choice. So if you want to keep that there and just increase the space, well, you can do that. And you can do that by this right here, up to 5 points. And that will not remove the axis. But they have another feature for series explosion, which essentially, like, very simplistically allows you to explode the heck out of it and spread that thing up way more. So I'm going to set this to 9%. And now you see we have a much wider gap. And we'll do the same thing over here, where you can go now to, on any bar chart, bars, layout, and we're going to explode the series and increase the separation. I think over here I did 17%. And this is the cool part. This is the next cool part of the layout. So if you notice, it sorts by the smallest item first, the biggest item second. This helps to show, and highlight those changes. This is a new feature. So you can do a sort by value on, and now sorts by the value. So the series itself within any grouping, you can see these two just switched. If I turn it back, will sort by the value. And if I want to reverse that, where it's not the smallest thing first, but the biggest, I can turn this on. And there you go. It will show the amount, the biggest amount, and then the second amount. And it will do this for any series that you have. For this case, I like to do the reverse order this way. So let's keep going. Now, another cool feature that has been released is all about the labels of the data. Oh, let's go back over here and finish the formatting. We're gonna take away this title just to keep things clear. So click off the title, and let's do a quick update to the legend. So we click legend, top center, and the text of the title that I just clicked will allow you to change the title. Instead of status, I'm gonna call it sale type. And now we're getting close. So anytime I have these visuals now, I am just sold on, it doesn't hurt to turn on the zoom slider always, because as you can see in the top, if I want to just drill into this thing and see what the values are anywhere, you can just do it. And it doesn't take up real estate, it gives more functionality, always turn it on. We have to look at something though, because we have to change some more things pertaining to the columns and the bars of our new visual. So first, if I turn on data labels, well, you can see there's a big difference. And this is where I'm going to show you how the data label functionality improves this. But we're going to start by making space. So sometimes you have data labels, but you don't have the space. So what we can do is we're going to change the spacing of the columns. And what I want is for all of the series, again, if you pick just one, you'll notice the layout is grayed out. I click return, I go here, it won't work because it's only on the all. So always pick all, it will only let you. Now when we go to the layout, we can see this other functionality that wasn't on the bar chart, and it's called space between categories. As this decreases, the bars get wider. If you go to 0, they're touching. Maybe that's your style, maybe you like it like that, maybe a little less. I think I put it around 30 or so, 26. To give a good vibe of like, you can see the movement of how this stuff is working out. But at the same time, because it will be important when you click around, how you can see things go up and down in that cool kind of swooping inverse color relationship with the light and the dark and how that looks. So we're gonna get into that here now. Let's keep going. And we've made the space for the data labels. Before actually we start to add the data labels, I can see here that the ribbon is missing a dark border. So what we can do is with the ribbon visual, we have the functionality, just like we do with the columns, to change the series properties for anything there. So in this case, sold, I want the border on, and I want the border to be this dark green too, but I want it to be a little bit more transparent, like 80. And now that will start to give you the ability, and you can tweak that to however you like it. But as you can see, these small differences allow you to change the border of the ribbon itself. You can also go to the column, and if I go to sold, I'm gonna turn this border off, and now you can see it's just cleanly on the ribbon border, which looks nice, not on the column border, and you can tweak and change this as you want. So let's talk about the data labels. We're gonna do both, because what you're gonna see is there's functionality that work well in data labels for vertical bar charts, as well as potentially horizontal, where horizontal you have a lot more room. You get all this empty box usually, so let's put some stuff in there. Let's start, because we'll show a new feature as well, with the bar chart. So what we can do is a new release, a new functionality of the data labels called title. So I'm going to explain what that is, and we're going to implement it. What title does is if you turn it on, it allows you to do two things. You can either make a custom where you put in any value from your data model that you want, or you can use the series name. To keep things simple, we'll use the series name. What the articles suggest is that this is a good way to remove the label or remove the legend from a chart. I think it can be a little cluttered sometimes and repetitive to see the same word, but I want to show you this so you have the option to do it if you want. So what in this case we'll do is for the legend, I'm going to turn it off, scroll up, turn off the legend. And as I turn that off, I can make this bigger and kind of work this way as well. We are going to apply the legend via the title to the bar. So I'm going to come back to this section. We're going to go to data labels. And for all, you can choose the series name, and it's on. So let's also change the color of it, because if we have, and this is just another functionality, but as you click through all these, you'll see them. But as it's light words, white, I guess a white font on a light background, it's harder to see. So instead of just having it all be one, we can change it. I did that intentionally. So let's pick the series name of, leave that title as it is, but we're going to go back to data labels and choose just returned. So now, like with others, we'll go through each of the different areas, but you can move this. So right now you can see returns in the middle. Maybe we want the inside base, start at the left. inside end, inside center. You can pick what you like, but let's keep going through this section. So now the title, I can control the title. And I want this to actually be a dark color, and I want it to be bold. Now we're changing the functionality within this. I also am going to want that same boldness on the label of the sold. So what you can do really quick is get used to toggling back and forth. Go to sold, go to title, make it bold. This one didn't do that, so let's add it over here just to keep things looking solid. Bold. And let's continue. So that title is pretty cool. We want to add the zoom bars to this one too, so we can scroll into the guts of this thing if we ever need to get into the details. And let's keep looking. So we need to change the data label value for returned as well. So if we go to series returned, options, we don't care about that. I'm going to minimize it. Title, we already talked about. So the other things you can choose are, let me make this so you can scroll up a little bit, are the value, which is going to be the actual thing that's represented there. Detail, which I'll show you over here how you can add. You could also add it here too. And then the background. So let's set up for returned. I want the value to also be this dark color instead of white. Return 955. Okay, well, this is giving us more information. So what's going on up here where it says returned 955, $34,000? Again, with the additional functionality, now we can add the reference label to the value that's represented there. What that means is essentially the detail label. And you can pick from any data element that you want in your reporting. So I'm going to come here. I'm going to turn on detail. And again, what this is saying, let me open up my data by clicking the top right, is if I go to all, data labels, and if I go to detail, on, it's going to ask me again for the data, for the detail, it's going to be on all of them. So you need to go to that all series. Well, what I'm going to do is I want to see, here's the units. Okay. Well, I want to see the sales too. I want to see the sales total. So I'm going to add that to right here. Make sure it's sales total. Yep. Sales total. So now what's really cool is I can see returned 955 for a total of $34,000. All right, more information on the bar. I like it. So let's now format that where we can say the color. I want this to also be now in the series of returned. And again, intentionally for this demo, I'm picking just to change things in series. Let's change the color of the detail value. So I picked return. I'm going to come up here and select that. And now that's all set. Let's do a couple more things with formatting. So totals labels, it's always good just to bold those suckers up. You can get creative if you want to have some fun. And under the totals label, turn on the background, get into some wilder shadings, things that you might want to have pop out one way or the other. In this case, we're going to just keep it simple, keep it black and white, bold the total. And what the total does, it says what's this value plus this value, the total length of the bar. Now, another important thing is you can kind of see this scaling here, but what you might find is that you just want to make it bigger. You don't want things to be as tiny. So there's a functionality you can do. I believe it's actually in the Y-axis under the layout, minimum category height. So as you can see here now, I'm expanding this thing. So maybe you want to have it bigger. Well, some people do. In this case, we're going to stick to 23. Because the reason why I chose 23 is I know all the text fits. It kind of gives some spacing around it and it fills the area. But if you just have a couple of measures, you might want to show more or less. Again, you can always drill into the smaller things. And now that's looking pretty darn good. It's pretty sharp. We don't need to have this Y title. So I'm going to turn that off. under y-axis, title off. And what we've just done is we've created this bar chart. And as you can see, you can interact with it and it changes everything, but I'll show you even more stuff here in a second. So let's do the same functionality for the ribbon chart. Now this is gonna be where the labels even have more value because we're gonna tell a story. So what's happening if I pick, say, one note, is this is saying 116 for sales, units sold, green. Well, that's 39% down less than the 161 of the previous month. And same stories are being told with returns. This month, March, had 86 returns. Then it jumped to 173, a 50% increase. So this is going to be the detailed section of the data labels as well. Let's build it. So here we are. And let's start by going on the right-hand side to first the data labels. I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to pick return. My first goal is to make these things black and make the boxes around it, the whole deal, so it kind of helps show it. So for the return section, the value, well, I'm going to want that to be a dark color. Check. And I'm going to want, because I clicked apply settings to the series returned, I'm only changing the things in the returned sales type. I want to have that background as well. So I can come down here, enable a background, and kind of what's easy is just pick white and then decrease the transparency to a kind of an area you like. This one I did 36%. So we'll do 36% as well. We still got a ways to go. So, but you can see now it kind of carves out the bubble. And again, the tooltips are there, so you can add more tooltips. We'll do that here in a second as well. But let's change this up to add the detailed. So the same way, if you ever get hung up on this, if I were to right now go to detail and it's all grayed out, I can't add anything. Well, what's happening? Don't worry about it. You must add the detail at the series for all. So detail label is applied to the whole, all the series is the whole entire chart. Now if we go and turn this on, well, now you can add the data. And in this case, I'm going to pick sales again. No, actually, there's another measure that's going to have some arrows and some cool stuff for the previous month. So here's some DAX, and I have another video where I talk about what this is doing, but essentially calculating the variances and then inserting a unit chart value to create an up arrow or a down arrow. Take a picture of this, go for it. It's a really cool formula to do that, but I don't want to spend the whole time talking through this formula, but you'll see it's pretty much if it's blank, put an arrow there. If the number's going up or down, it's pretty straightforward. But, you know, ping me on, ask a comment if you want the formula. I can paste it. You can also just download the book or the workbook and have it yourself. So let's add the units total variance to the data label section with the arrow. All right, now we're cooking. So this is on there, but I can't see it. So I want to make sure now I go to the series and pick returned. I'm going to choose the color for the detail of the return series to be black. And look at that. We've done it. If I uncheck this, there's a couple. Let's do the same slight box to kind of group this stuff up for the sold as well. So again, and this is repetitiveness. You need to build the repetitiveness in. Then when you're designing, it's just going to come naturally. So let's go to the data, the data label, which we were at, but we're going to go to sold. And for sold, I'm going to want there to be a background using the same strategy of doing white and just slightly scoping in that transparency until it gets to a spot that you like. And you're good. And again, with these zoom labels, you can always get into the details of this. And you've done it. So doing that exercise, you have now totally gone through the process of how to use the new labels, all the new releases for this intricate formatting capability. So I encourage you, play with this file, do it yourself, get more hits with it, and you will just get better and better. But please subscribe to my channel and reach out with any questions, comments, or suggestions. But thank you and have a great day. Bye.